Former special counsel Jack Smith is standing by the integrity of his investigations into President Donald Trump. He faced intense questioning from the House Judiciary Committee in his first public appearance before lawmakers. Smith pushed back on claims that he was, quote, a crooked prosecutor with a vendetta against the president. Smith also said that he will not be intimidated by threats of an indictment from President Trump's Justice Department.
Do you believe that President Trump's Department of Justice will find some way to indict you?
I believe that they will do everything in their power to do that because they've been ordered to by the president.
CBS News congressional correspondent Nicole Killian has more from Capitol Hill. Nicole, welcome. So how was Jack Smith's testimony received and what's next here?
Well, obviously, this was a very partisan hearing from the standpoint of Republicans were entering this hearing really trying to show or prove in their view that Jack Smith was part of this weaponization campaign on the part of the Biden administration to get President Trump. Obviously, we saw Jack Smith push back against that, saying that he was simply following the facts and the law, that he didn't have some vendetta against the president, that partisan politics wasn't involved. And then, of course, we saw Democrats trying to back up Jack Smith in some instances, some lawmakers calling him a hero for trying to defend democracy through his investigation into the 2020 election interference, as well as the classified documents case. Take a listen, though, to what Jack Smith said specifically about January 6th, which was heavily litigated during this hearing.
Our proof showed that he caused what happened on January 6th, that it was foreseeable, and that he exploited that violence.
Did Donald Trump know that his allegations of election fraud were lies when he spread them?
Our proof was that he did, and we intended to prove that at trial.
So again, Jack Smith standing by his investigation. They were even going so far as to say that he believed that the former president was part of a criminal scheme as far as the election subversion case was concerned. But what was notable, Vlad and Adriana, is that you had 4 of those police officers who many of us have spoken to over the years, people like Harry Dunn, Aquilina Gunnell, Michael Fanone, Daniel Hodges, both of whom worked for Metropolitan Police and U.S. Capitol Police, who were at that hearing, and some really striking moments as some lawmakers, Republicans specifically, kind of pushed back on some of the events of January 6th with these officers sitting in the audience. So it was very emotional, intense at times. But again, for Jack Smith's part, he continued to, as I said, stand by the investigation, even though ultimately it was aborted.
So, Nicole, Jack Smith has spoken to lawmakers behind closed doors. Was there anything new that came out of yesterday's testimony?
Well, obviously, he gave a deposition to the Judiciary Committee ahead of this public testimony, and he really wanted to testify publicly, in part because he was never able to bring that case to trial, and in part he stood down from pushing forward with that case once President Trump was elected for a second term because president couldn't be prosecuted. So that was part of the reason that the case was ultimately dropped and that he stood down. But this really gave him an opportunity to kind of litigate some points of the investigation. But again, you know, you had some Republican lawmakers really pushing back against his tactics. For instance, during the course of that investigation, some Republican lawmakers had their phone records seized. Many senators here on Capitol Hill still very upset about that and have launched investigations into that. So that was certainly a sore sticking point during the course of this hearing. You know, in terms of hearing anything new, again, I think it was a lot of litigation of the events of January 6th, but obviously that event still remains highly politicized here on Capitol Hill.
All right, Nicole, thank you so much.